Dr. Parikh, am I saying that right?
You are.
Thank you. Do you know anybody who's against biomedical research?
I do not know anybody that's against biomedical research, but I know some.
That's like being against children, isn't it?
It is.
It's like being against world peace, isn't it?
It is.
It's like being against golden retrievers, isn't it?
There's some people that argue there.
Okay. Well, let's get that out of the way. I want to ask you about NIH. I love NIH. I think they do extraordinary work.
Yes, sir.
But isn't it a fact if NIH assigns way too much money for overhead, that money comes out of the basic research? Isn't that the case?
Senator, both those things are providing funds for research. And I agree with you that we need to make the administrative burden and the costs associated with it as low as possible, because we do want as much to go to
Well, why
research.
can't NIH live with 15% overhead?
Yeah. Senator, we have had a partnership that's been going on for 75 years in this country.
Yes, sir, but why can't NIH live with 15% overhead?
At this point, what that would do is actually turn institutions like the ones we've heard about here, it would actually make it to where they are laying off researchers and the support folks who are
Well, the Gates Foundation, when they make grants, they limit overhead to 10%, don't they?
They do, sir, but that is apples to oranges because they count different things.
And the
in
Roberts
overhead.
Woods Johnson Foundation limits overhead to 12%, don't they?
They do. Again, apples to oranges because they count different things.
Isn't it a fact that the universities that receive the most money from NIH also have the biggest endowments?
I haven't checked that, but it probably is true, Senator. And I agree with you. There are challenges that we need to work on.
Well, let's take Harvard.
Imagine donating millions to save lives, only to find out that the money bought a yacht, renovated luxury homes, and padded university salaries. This isn't fiction. It's what Kennedy exposed about the NIH and elite universities. And what's worse, no one audits the billions they get. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how your money, meant for curing cancer and saving children, may be floating away on a sailboat instead. And yes, we've got the receipts.
69 cents out of every dollar from NIH given to Harvard goes to overhead.
No, sir, it's 69 cents out of every $1.69. It's on top of, it's not within.
Okay.
Which is 1.6.
Let me ask you about one of the worst abuses I've ever seen. It was at Stanford.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Stanford was spending 74% of grants from NIH on overhead. Remember that?
I do, although I was in high school at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't. and they audited Stanford.
Yes, sir.
You remember what they found?
They bought a sailboat.
They found that Stanford was spending some of that money to pay the salaries of the employees at a Stanford-owned shopping center, didn't they?
I don't remember that part.
I do.
But yeah, okay.
They found that Stanford was spending some of that money that was supposed to go to research, ladies and gentlemen, to renovate the president's home.
Yes, sir.
Didn't they?
I believe so, Senator. Again.
And to renovate the vice provost's home, too, didn't they?
I believe you when you say that. Yes.
And they also charged, Stanford took NIH research money to help children and applied it to depreciation on a Stanford yacht, didn't they?
Yes, sir. Again, when I was in high school, sir.
Now, does NIH audit every year the way these grants are being spent?
They don't audit every year. There's a process for determining.
So they just trust the universities?
No, there's a negotiation that takes place between
Yes,
the
sir,
NIH
but if it's a
and the
5-year grant
Yes, sir.
and they agree on indirect costs, they don't audit it every year. What if the universities lie to them?
That is absolutely a possibility.
What does fungible mean?
Fungible means that you can move money from one place to another.
And money's fungible, isn't it?
Money is fungible.
I'm ready to have a productive discussion. I've got to go to another committee. Maybe you'll have it today. I haven't heard it.
Yes, sir.
What I've heard is the implication is that anybody who is against asking hard questions about the overhead and spending is against biomedical research.
I wouldn't say that, sir. I think you are a champion.
And I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't either.
But every penny that we spend on overhead that's not being audited, and you know as much as I do, Doc, that some of it is being abused, is money that is taken away from research. And that's just a fact.
Senator,
And if you care about this child here, and I know you do, we all do, then any money spent illegitimately on overhead to pay the salary of a professor in the humanities department at a university is coming out of her research. And it's not wrong to ask questions.
it is not wrong to ask
No,
questions.
it's not.
Not at all. And Senator, I think it's actually important to ask those questions and optimize the system.
And I don't understand why these universities cannot live on 15% overhead when Gates Foundation limits them to 10% and the Johnson Foundation limits them to 12%. I don't understand it. All of a sudden, if they don't get 35% overhead, civilization is going to melt.
It is important.
My mama didn't raise a fool, and if she did, it was one of my brothers. I'm not buying that.
Senator,
Thank you.
I think it's worth the conversation.
The time has expired.
I went way over. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I appreciate your indulgence.
In a heated Senate exchange that's now making waves across the country, Dr. Larry Tabak, the acting director of the National Institutes of Health, found himself in the hot seat. The man holding the torch? Senator John Kennedy, known for his sharp wit and sharper questions. But this wasn't political theater. It was a serious probe into how billions of taxpayer dollars are being used or misused under the banner of biomedical research. At the heart of the issue is overhead, a term that might sound boring, but its impact is anything but. Overhead costs are supposed to cover things like administrative support, facilities, and utilities for research projects. But according to Senator Kennedy, what's happening is far more troubling. He cites shocking examples. Stanford University allegedly used NIH funds meant for life-saving research to pay for salaries at a university-owned shopping center, renovate the president's mansion, and even maintain a yacht. Yes, a yacht. Harvard, he says, receives NIH funds where 69 cents of every dollar goes not into research, but into overhead. Now let's be clear, this isn't an attack on science. No one in their right mind is against biomedical research. As Senator Kennedy rightly put it, that's like being against children or world peace. But supporting research doesn't mean giving institutions a blank check. And when private foundations like the Gates Foundation cap overhead at 10% and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation at 12%, it begs the question, why are American taxpayers footing the bill for universities that demand 30–40%? Dr. Tabak's defense? That comparing private foundations to government funding is like comparing apples to oranges. But to many listening, it sounded like a dodge, especially when he admitted NIH doesn't conduct yearly audits of how this money is spent. If that doesn't raise red flags, what will? The deeper problem here isn't just a few bad examples. It's systemic. When universities with billion-dollar endowments rely on taxpayer-funded research grants to pay for luxuries, while everyday Americans struggle to afford health care, you know, something is broken. NIH has become the largest funder of biomedical research in the world, yet with little transparency and even less accountability. If this kind of information matters to you, if you believe in real oversight and transparency, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who care about where their tax dollars really go. There's a lot more to uncover, and your support helps make that possible.